The Quality Assurance Program was devised by the federal government as a means of distributing around $76 million in funding. Universities were asked to prepare a portfolio taking into account their teaching and research abilities, which would then determine their ranking.
What they're doing is actually making the richer universities richer and the poorer universities poorer. And one would have thought the role of government was to bring the other universities up to the same standard.
Liberal Senator John Tierney believes the rankings could be misleading to overseas students considering study in Australia. Newcastle has one of the best medical faculties in the country, yet it's ranked on level 5 behind 18 other institutions.
In terms of our educational export industry, which is worth $1.25 billion a year, universities overseas and students overseas are going to look to this as well. And this is going to put Newcastle at a great disadvantage.
Vice-Chancellor of Newcastle Uni, Professor Raoul Mortley, agrees it's deceiving and is critical of the process involved. Also of concern is the amount of money received by the 6 Level 1 universities. They will get 2/3 of the $76 million. Newcastle gets just $1.1 million. Jodie McKay, NBN News. Most of these 18 graduates were unemployed, but they now have the knowledge and ambition to start their own small businesses. For the past 5 weeks, they've been undertaking an intensive training course. 15 will now go on to establish their own small business, receiving government financial assistance along the way. Michael Hart is one such graduate. He wants to establish a whiz-bin cleaning service.
I've sort of been unemployed for a number of years now, and I'd really like to think of myself as an employer, not an employee.
While Paul Allen had the skills, he lacked the know-how to set up a mobile photographic business.
It's helped me a great deal in the financial side and in marketing, which I really wasn't too versed in.
As well as financial help, the scheme's participants will also receive advice from professionals who'll act as mentors during the first 12 months.
I know that I'm not alone in my business and that people are really there to help me. They're pushing me all the way, and which is good. 21 to have a future feels really good.
Even on a gale force day, Fame Cove on the northern side of Port Stephens isn't a bad place to be if you're on a boat. It's a favourite haven for yachties who were among those who campaigned to save the area from being sold by a timber company.
It's a very important piece of water for national yachties as well as international yachties. The land and the water go together.
In the days before the so-called Sports Rorts affair brought her down, Ros Kelly joined with state and local politicians supporting the fight to keep the land in public ownership.
It's all very well to have a strategy and have a policy, but when you actually see on the ground what it means and what it will mean for our children and their children, this area of Fame Cove will now be preserved for all of our kids forever.
The federal government bought the land for $200,000 and the state government agreed to meet its maintenance costs. To the delight of its unofficial caretakers, known as Friends of Fame Cove, the site was handed over in a ceremony on board the coastal patrol vessel Girralong. Tea gardens at the mouth of the Myall River isn't the place to be if you're a prawn. The king and river varieties are likely to wind up cooked and eagerly sought after by the crowds that flock to town. Clip-clop rides added to the carnival, which was officially opened by former Sport and Environment Minister Ros Kelly. Only metres from a community arts and crafts centre, which she helped fund and the minister says added to her downfall from Parliament. Back to the main stage, and one way in which a prawn can go out in a blaze of glory, the Celebrity Prawn Eating Contest. NBN's friend of the festival, Ray Deneen, and co-presenter Chris Barth swapped the news desk for a trestle table and a plate of prawns. Consider digesting a quarter kilo of crustaceans in under 2 minutes. The prawns may have the last laugh yet. Wave ski riders were keen to get into the water after heats were postponed due to out-of-control surf yesterday. Many wore helmets in the heavy conditions with the swells pouring over Nobby's Reef. Foster surfer and Australian wave ski champion Matt Caldwell explained the thrill.
Pretty heavy out there, got caught under a couple of big sets and got pretty smashed, but it's pretty fun.
What sort of manoeuvres now are wave skiers looking to impress the judges with?
Well, probably the major manoeuvre at the moment is the aerial, so that's the main one, and just powerful surfing.
European champion Kieran Davies caught his share of the waves, but local knowledge proved an advantage. Wave ski riders follow a world circuit, but don't attract anything like the sponsorship or prize money enjoyed by top surfboard riders. Rhys Duncan from Coffs Harbour was runner-up in last weekend's national championships. He's also an upcoming ambassador for the sport.
Everyone knows Surfest all around the world actually, and to be part of Surfest is really good. We were a few years ago, then for some reason we dropped out of it, but we're back in it, so it's good to see.
There was action aplenty at the Wingham Showground, with the Super Rodeo attracting around 200 cowboys and girls. The Super Rodeo is distinct from other rodeos. A win in one of the events is worth 25 points rather than the usual 10. Those points are collated and are part of the selection criteria for the national finals. In the bull ride and open steer, Alan Southern took out the first place honours. Jim Board from Sydney took out the bareback, while Keith Tribe had a win in the saddle bronc. The ladies' barrel race went to Julie Campbell. More than 7,000 people turned out to view the rough riding action over the 2 days of the competition. Running the first Super Rodeo successfully is seen as a big achievement for Wingham, a popular location in rodeo circles. Other Super Rodeos will follow across Australia. Selena Buresti, NBN News.
The meeting followed tension over recent cuts in the price of coal sold to Japan. This led to a week-long strike by the country's 20,000 miners and a rally in Canberra. Mr Bedall said the 6-month study will identify areas where efficiency can be improved at both management and worker levels.
Every time there seems to be an economic gain, a productivity gain, that's passed on in terms of lower prices. The other converse side of that, of course, if you don't have those efficiency gains, then you don't have markets.
So you've got an assurance, have you, that there won't be any more industrial action until this is finalised?
Wasn't even asked about, wasn't even discussed.
United Mineworkers National President John Maitland says the union movement is pleased with today's development, even though the meeting did not include discussion of forming a national coal marketing authority.
Well, we haven't asked for a marketing authority as yet through the inquiry. I mean, what we're wanting to do is to identify what are the major problems that we have to address in the future, and as a result of having identified those, it may very well be that there is some suggestion that there needs to be some government intervention.
Mr Maitland also said he welcomed the Japanese being invited to make a submission to the study, saying they have a major interest in our coal industry and cannot take us for granted. Mr Bedall said he hopes to announce the name of the chairman of the study within a week.
The number of people looking for work in regional New South Wales has dropped everywhere except the Illawarra. In the Hunter, the unemployment rate is 15.5%, an improvement of 1.4 percentage points compared with the same time last year. In Newcastle, it's 16.3%. On the North Coast, an improvement of 1.8%, with 17.9% of people looking for work. And in the northwest, unemployment is down by 2.7 to 10.1%. The federal government is addressing the issue by drawing up a blueprint for full employment. The last time something similar was done was 1945.
The 1945 Employment White Paper set the sails for post-war growth in the Australian economy, and the government is certainly hoping that this white paper will do so as well.
However, Dr Roy Green from Newcastle University's Employment Studies Centre has criticised the direction the government plans to take.
That it's based on a very narrow economic orthodoxy, the orthodoxy that got us into this recession in the first place to a great extent through its use of tight monetary policy.
Dr Green would prefer an emphasis on job creation. The public's response to the government's discussion paper will be considered and a final plan for full employment released before the May budget. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
It was a packed meeting at Newcastle City Hall. Property owners and retailers arrived in force to argue their case against an increase in their rates. Funds from the benefit levy are used by the City Centre Committee to promote the central business district, but some ratepayers on the CBD outskirts believe they get little in return. But the City Centre Committee defended its marketing plan. At times, the meeting became heated, with some protesters demanding the right to have their say. The city's 700 property owners have been asked to complete this response form. The results will help compile a council submission to Local Government Minister Gary West. City Centre Chairman Peter Evans today said he believed last night's crowd represented a vocal minority and said he would wait for the final results of the ballot. Melinda Smith, NBN News.
Newcastle Council bought the old CIG gas building as offices for its health services and impounding division. Council also made room on the first floor for the State Emergency Service. It's an impressive base for the service, complete with a commercial kitchen, canteen, offices, radio centre and strategy rooms. A massive garage also butts onto the building, providing enough space for the SES trucks, caravan and boat. Although the corridors and offices were empty today, the building is expected to be packed tonight as it opens its doors to the public.
It's nothing new for a first-grade team to change a game plan to suit a different opponent each week, but last week's strategies couldn't have been more punishing and came from hours of watching Souths on video to find their weaknesses. The result was a 30-point flogging. Again, David Wade has found an area he thinks will cause plenty of damage to Wes. The side remains unchanged with O'Davis at fullback, Andrew Johns retaining the half-pack position and the forward pack remaining injury-free and intact.
I hope we can put back-to-back wins because that breeds even greater confidence.
David Mullane is also back into full training after re-injuring his shoulder earlier in the season. Their training singlets may be devoid of sponsors' logos, but earlier today the smaller sponsors that make up the club's financial backbone gathered for a meet the players and the people behind the night's lunch. The league's big guns made a last-minute change to their plans to also offer their encouragement.
Oh well, I don't like to sort of preempt those sort of things, but I'm hoping that it'll be fairly quickly because the people up here, they always are supportive of their sportsmen and sportswomen, and I think they'll get behind them.
Darren Curtis, NBN News.
Ugly was the best way to describe conditions for day 2 of Surfest. A strong onshore wind made a mess of the rising swell and made wave selection crucial. Manly's Richie Lovett, champion of the Australian domestic circuit, didn't connect with the inside break often enough and was a shock elimination.
It's just wind swell out there and you just got to be in the right place at the right time. If you get a good wave that connects up to the shore, you'll get the points, so it's really gamble out there.
American Pat O'Connell, fresh from a starring role in the movie Endless Summer 2, was just as surprised to progress after taking a pounding in a later heat.
Out there I was getting dunked, like paddling for waves, missing, and then turning around and just whitewater's coming, duck diving and just like doing the disco underwater with my board. I was just going, what? I'm in a heat, I'm going to lose, there's no way.
Pro Junior champion Nathan Webster was in solid form, as was Central Coaster Dave Nielsen. Locals to win through to round 3 included a radical Simon Robinson and Merryweather's Chad Edser. Not so lucky was Lennox Head's Craig Holly, who struggled to find a workable wave. The howling onshore wind hasn't been the only thing to mar today's competition. Once again, several surfers have failed to turn up for their heats, the most notable being former world number 2, Californian Brad Gerlach. The contest continues tomorrow when hopefully both the waves and the weather will improve. Bruce McKenzie, NBN News.
Kostiusz's professional career has been short but brilliant. 11 fights, 11 wins, 9 by knockout. His next opponent will be his toughest test against Angel Hernandez, 6th in the world junior welterweight division. If he's nervous about the May bout, he didn't show it at Cessnock Racecourse today, accompanied by wife Natasha. The rugged Russian is fitter and more confident after his hard-fought win against Hector Lopez.
I'm fit, now I'm fit, and hope so will be best performance.
A win would have special significance for Zoo, his first fight as an Australian citizen. Promoter Bill Morty is trying to make the bout an IBF elimination, which would mean Zoo's next fight as an Australian would be for a world title.
I've asked the IBF to recognise it as the official eliminator. If they do, then we fight, say, before August, Rodriguez the champion.
Boxing fans can only hope his path to glory goes smoother than the race named after him at Cessnock, where a horse fell and a jockey was knocked unconscious. But Zoo says his feet are firmly on the ground, and that's the way they'll stay. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
This is one story of a city which many people have been prepared to believe for decades. It's such images that the Newcastle Chamber of Commerce and Industry, fed up with the city being considered Sydney's poor relation, is determined to shrug off once and for all.
I don't think the politicians think past the end of their arm or their nose. What we're trying to do is explain to the politicians in Sydney that really we do have something to offer up here that's a very high standard.
A Hunter Expo will be conducted in Parliament House from the 9th to the 12th of May, displaying a variety of local achievements from industry to the arts.
We'll have education, engineering, manufacturing, I think agricultural products, wine, a fairly broad-based exhibition down there.
The Randwick Racecourse Function Centre was packed with a who's who in racing. Well-known jockeys, trainers and commentators gathered for what is known as the Logies of the sport. Newcastle trainer Max Lees won the Silver Horseshoe Award as best trainer against the more highly fancied Sydney trainers.
23 years ago, yesterday, I didn't think I'd be here receiving an award like this. I had a fall at Canterbury. It was probably the best thing that ever happened to me.
Based in the strong Newcastle racing suburb of Broadmeadow, his best-known horse was Luskin Star, which won the 1977 Golden Slipper and the Triple Crown as a 2-year-old. More recently, he has trained Coronation Day, which took out the George Main and Champion Stakes, and Snippets, which has won the Oakley Plate, Sire's Produce and Galaxy. One of his biggest successes in 1993 was winning the Cameron Cup with the mare Flitter. Jason Neuenhoff, NBN News.
Onshore winds once again made a mess of the 1 metre swell pushing into Newcastle Beach. The fluky conditions contributed to some upset results, none bigger than the elimination of world champion Pauline Menzer in the semi-finals of the City of Beaches Women's Pro. In the decider, it was defending Surfest champ Pam Burridge who set the pace. Pam on a screamer up the beach, lands the floater. Big points for Pam Burridge. American Lisa Anderson was also in radical form, while a controversial interference call ruined the chances of Sydney's Lynette McKenzie. Kylie Webb tried some big moves, but it was the semi-retired Burridge who found all the right waves.
I had a really bad semi-final and I made myself sit and not panic and just catch whatever I could and stay smooth, so I felt like I was cruising the whole final.
While Burridge was collecting the spoils of victory, 4 Newcastle surfers were readying themselves for battle in tomorrow's quarter-finals of the men's event. Nick Wood and Simon Law survived a desperately close tussle with former world champion Tom Carroll, while Luke Egan and Darren Burgess also progressed. Others to impress included Avoca's Shane Powell and exciting Gold Coast prospect Jay Phillips. Bruce McKenzie, NBN News.
The gruesome discovery was made around 8:30 yesterday morning when the girl's body was found near Toronto by truck drivers. Police say the girl, believed to be only 13 to 14 years of age, was fully clothed. She was wearing a pair of grey long tights and a black crocheted top and underwear. The teenager was also wearing a gold sleeper earring in her left ear and a silver ring on her left hand. She's described as 160 centimetres tall with brown and red tinted shoulder-length hair. Police believe her body may have been dumped on Friday night. They're waiting on pathology tests from a post-mortem before establishing the cause of death.
Our inquiries are at this stage centred through missing persons, and a check on missing persons will be national-wide.
With no leads to follow, police are asking for help in their investigations. They're hoping a large distinctive wart on the girl's right hand may help identify her.
We're hoping that would lead to somebody recognising her or may think that they know who she is.
Anyone with information is asked to contact their nearest police station or Toronto detectives. The Cessna 152 aircraft departed from Rutherford at around 6:30 last night, piloted by a 37-year-old Maitland businessman on a routine night visual exercise. The alarm was raised early this morning when a club employee arrived for work to find the hangar open and the fixed-wing aircraft missing. The flying club alerted the Civil Aviation Authority. Soon after, a major search and rescue operation was underway involving 2 helicopters.
At this stage, the Civil Aviation Authority based in Melbourne is conducting an investigation into the incident. They've delegated different planes from the local area and they're conducting a search in the immediate vicinity of Maitland.
The Cessna aircraft was one of 3 owned by the Aero Club and used for training. The missing pilot described as a popular club member and an experienced aviator. By late this afternoon, a total of 7 aircraft had joined the search, which will continue tomorrow. Aviation Search and Rescue has confirmed a locator beacon was on board, but says it's received no reports or sightings of the aircraft. Melinda Smith, NBN News.
The Knights came back from the break down 10-2, paying the price for missed opportunities. But David Waite's half-time blast did the trick, inspiring his side to put their week of specialist training into practice. After a Brad Godden break, Paul Harrigan barrelled his way over for his side's first try. Andrew Johns got his kicking act together and added the extras. Feeling pumped up and led by a bustling captain, the Knights' second try was only seconds away. Aware of his winger's speed, Matthew Johns had no doubts his chip would become points. With the scores now level, the Knights were thumping their way towards another win. But nobody accounted for Jim Sedaris's left foot. Last week's Golden Boy tried the same trick but was offline. West then soaked up the time, wasting precious seconds at every opportunity. The clock, a powerful ally, helping West to 2 wins in a row.
Till now, the northern New South Wales fertiliser market has been dominated by one company, Incitec. This has seen large disparities between the prices paid for fertiliser by New South Wales farmers and their interstate counterparts.
Anywhere from $60 to $100 a tonne for high analysis fertiliser between Moree and Jerilderie in the south, for example. Now that's too great a disparity.
Concerned by this, the New South Wales Farmers Association supported a move by South Australian-based company Highfert into the eastern states market. Today, Highfert opened a fertiliser warehouse in the Newcastle suburb of Wallsend.
We've got 2 big players in the marketplace now, and if necessary, in due course, we'll pursue certainly an expansion of the products that Highfert make available in the north of the state, and I think you'll see that over the next year or so.
With Highfert now in the market, fertiliser prices in northern New South Wales have already dropped, a reduction estimated as saving farmers between $2,000 and $10,000 annually.
If you can save $2,000, then you'll possibly increase your fertiliser usage. You'll be able to increase production, and any increase in production, certainly in export commodities such as grain, is good for Australia.
Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
6 ambulances were dispatched to reports of a pile-up on Raymond Terrace Road at Millers Forest just before 7. As crews picked their way through dense fog, they discovered not one but 4 separate crashes, scattered more than 100 metres along the road and down the embankment. 9 cars and a motorbike were damaged. 3 people were taken to the John Hunter Hospital with minor injuries. And at New Lambton this morning, the driver of a car was lucky to escape injury after his vehicle left Grinsell Street and careered into the front yard of a house. The station wagon demolished a gatepost and narrowly missed a carport. Emergency services were placed on standby until the vehicle was towed from the yard.
There are 75 multicultural groups in the Hunter with an ethnic population of around 60,000. At City Hall today, 13 senior recipients from across the Hunter received awards from the Premier for outstanding contributions to their communities. The certificate and badge honouring countless hours of voluntary work.
The awards are there, not just as recognition, but also as encouragement.
Organised by the Ethnic Community Council, the presentation is set to become an annual event. With the official part over, it was time for a multicultural luncheon feast. Food from 8 countries tempted the taste buds of 350 guests, and for award winner Maria Concertino, all the attention wasn't about to stop her from doing what she does best.
How do you feel about getting your award? Good.
She's very proud. She works very hard, she does. She really does.
Melinda Smith, NBN News.
William Hay, a former site engineer with State Rail, faces 3 counts of receiving corrupt payments totalling $29,000. His wife June is charged with aiding and abetting. Also in East Maitland Court, 29-year-old Michael Gillard, formerly of Singleton. He's accused of making those corrupt payments. The purpose of the 4-day hearing was to determine whether the 3 should face court on the charges. Magistrate Alan Railton today found there is evidence available that a jury could convict on each charge. All had bail continued and were committed for trial in East Maitland District Court at a date to be fixed. The charges against the Hayes and Gillard relate back to 1991 when the North Coast rail line was being upgraded. It was alleged in court that Hay corruptly received payments which would tend to influence him to show favour to plant hiring company K&M Gillard. The matter was first raised last year during ICAC hearings in Newcastle and subsequently in this report on the SRA's operations. Mr and Mrs Hayes and Mr Gillard may be the first to face charges out of the ICAC investigation, but they won't be the last. A special task force with the code name DIG is investigating the ICAC's findings.
There will be a number of further charges laid as the investigation continues, possibly another 4 or 5 offenders. They're all fraud-related charges.
Jodie McKay, NBN News. Rochelle Chapman lives here in Gillith Street, Curry. Her neighbours last saw her toward the end of February. Her parents, who live at Medowie, reported her missing after she failed to show up for her birthday celebrations last Friday. Police say there are a number of reasons why they're concerned for her safety.
She left the house unlocked. A lot of her clothing has been left behind. She paid 2 weeks' advance rent and she hasn't been seen since that time.
Rochelle has a number of distinct features, including a tattoo of a rose on her neck and a butterfly tattoo on her left wrist. She also has a stud earring in her nose. Rochelle's parents have custody of her young daughter, but she visits regularly, making her disappearance all that more of a mystery. Police are investigating numerous possible sightings of Rochelle. Most put her in the Curry area around a month ago. But one caller has told police they saw Rochelle in Sydney's King's Cross during the last fortnight. That lead is being followed by Sydney Police, but Cessnock detectives would like to talk to anyone who may be able to help them further.
At this stage, there are obvious reasons for a fair bit of concern, which is why we're putting such a large effort into the investigation at the moment.
Jodie McKay, NBN News.